Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great start to your week. You know what time it is, and you know what this is. This is our weekly Bobcast coming to you from my office here on a Monday evening, prepping for my Tuesday morning meetings. I wanted to come on tonight and go over a topic that once again this week was a request from a regular viewer. And as you can see by the topic of the Bobcast, it's perspective and attitude. Why perspective and attitude? Well, like I said, it was a request, but one affects the other. They're interchangeable, yet a little different. And what I mean by that is that if you ever heard the saying, you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And that saying is very, very true, but it's also determined by your perspective and your attitude. I'll give you a quick example. Recently, I just got back last night from a business trip to Ocean City, Maryland. And it's probably, if you've seen any of my posts on my Facebook account, you'll notice that my love, Anastasia, and I were there together, and we were down at the boardwalk and took some pictures. And if you notice in the pictures, it was less than ideal conditions. It was cool, it was windy, a little rain here and there. But if you notice by the smiles on our face, we were happy to be there. Okay? So what kind of a perspective, what kind of an attitude would you have taken into a situation like that? You're at the beach and the weather is not that great. Do you feel like your vacation or your time away is ruined? Or do you look at it like I do, which is that I had spent so many years going to that convention and going to the boardwalk, which I love. I love going to the boardwalk, especially the old East Coast, Northeast Coast boardwalks like Wildwood and Ocean City and those, because of the carnival atmosphere. It's just something that I love. And I'd walk that boardwalk many times alone, looking at the sights, looking at the rides, getting some of the boardwalk fries and some New York style pizza and different things like that. And I'd always wanted to have someone special with me there. And so I didn't care if it rained, if it was windy, if it was cold. I was walking the boardwalk with my love. See, that was my perspective on it. What is your perspective on things? I'm going to stop because I am definitely going to get into a rant tonight. And I'm going to remind you how to reach out to me. Reach out to me on Facebook, Bob Norman. My business page is Buff Monkey Marketing. On Instagram, it's Buff_Monkey. On Twitter, it's @Buff_Monkey. My email account is Buff_Monkey@Reagan.com. Reagan spelled just like the president. And my YouTube channel is Big Norm 1963. You can get all of my videos there, and I would also ask again, as I always do, that you comment, that you send feedback, that you give me topic suggestions, and also that you share these Bobcasts if you find them helpful in any way. Excuse me. So let's get back. Let's get back to what I was saying. So, what is your perspective on things? Hi Lisa, hi Mo. What is your perspective on things? Do you wake up in the morning and wait to see how your day goes before you decide what kind of a mood you're in? Or, hi Linda, or do you wake up like I do, and people get a chuckle out of this because I'm sure it's not common, and someone asks me how I'm doing, and I say, man, I'm happy when I wake up. Okay, because I decide how my day is going to go, not whether the water went cold in the shower, or whether I forgot to put my favorite shirt in the laundry and I can't wear it today. Those tiny little setbacks don't set me back, because I'm happy that I woke up and I decide what my day is going to be like. And trust me, I've spent enough days in the past in a bad frame of mind and learned my lessons from those things. So what do? Do you wake up in the morning and wait to see how things are going to go? Or do you decide from minute one what kind of a day you're going to have? And I'll give you a quick exercise too that this really helped me. And I know I mentioned this before, but if you want to really, besides, you've seen my Bobcast about gratitude when I'm at the food bank doing that and those kind of things, which all will lead you to some great perspective and a great attitude of gratitude. But if you really want to do something, it's just a quick, small little exercise that will help you with that perspective and that attitude, and that's this. Every night before you lay your head down and go to sleep, write down 2 things that you are grateful for that happened that day. They don't have to be giant things. They could be that you took a few minutes and talked to an old friend. It could be that you went to the barbershop or the hairstylist. It could be anything. 2 things that you're grateful for that happened that day. And then write down 2 things that you are looking forward to the next day. And again, they can be small things, big things, it doesn't matter. This will focus your mind on positive things, and it'll focus your mind on all the great things that you have going on in your life. So here's a few questions that you can ask yourself. When you meet people, this is one way that you can decide what kind of an attitude you have. When you meet people, what do you notice about them? Do you first notice that they have a great smile, something positive about them, that they have great hair, or maybe they talk nicely, or do you notice the bad things? Do you look for the negative thing right away? Do you look for the fact that her shoes don't match her dress, or his hair looks dumb, or he's bald on top, or whatever it is that you might come up with? Which one of those happens to you when you meet people? Do you ever see like an old building in an old town, and it's maybe kind of falling apart, and you look at this ugly building and you think, my goodness, what an eyesore, why don't they tear that down? Or do you do what I do as a lover of history and look at that building and think, wow, what history, what might have taken place in that building, and who might have been in that building, and what beautiful architecture. What's your perspective on everything that you come across in your life on a daily basis, the little things? Do you see opportunity in things? I talk all the time in my Bobcast about my business, about people taking opportunity to go back to school, or to start a business, or to learn new things, or whatever it might be. Do you see opportunity, or do you look for excuses not to try and reason that things won't work? When you're confronted with a problem, do you whine and complain? Let's be honest, a lot of people do. Or do you look for a solution and say, how can I fix this? How will I fix this? With the understanding that you will fix it, or you will figure it out. You just need to figure out how. Which of those applies to you? I told you guys, I've mentioned this many times about anesthesia, and I mentioned how I had given up and I quit looking. For years I spent alone, just out of heck with it, with this terrible attitude. I had a great attitude in everything in life except that area of my life. And then I met her, woman I've waited for my whole life, and there she was. Boy, that kind of changes your attitude. Sometimes something has to happen to help you change that attitude. So what kind of an attitude do you have? And I want you to understand, I've said it before, that sometimes your attitude comes from bad experiences. There's my love right there, just jumped on. Sometimes it comes from bad experiences. Sometimes it comes from good experiences or things that you've been taught. But understand that that attitude affects your perspective on things. And your perspective will affect how you enjoy or don't enjoy a situation or circumstance. Sweetheart, I was just telling them about Ocean City, how the weather was kind of nasty, but we had a great time anyway because we were there together. And that perspective and that attitude is really the key to a happy life. I have to tell you, if you have a terrible attitude, you will have a terrible life. You will find negativity and problems in every situation. You won't enjoy things in your life, and you'll look for happiness outside of yourself, outside of certain things. I knew a guy, and I'm going to use my buddy Bob Dogs on here, and I know he'll know this one. But I knew a guy that worked for me that wanted my counsel before because he was constantly cheating on his wife, and he was constantly doing this and buying these expensive things and doing all these things because he was looking for something outside of himself because his attitude sucked. His perspective on life sucked. So no different than the person that turns to drugs or alcohol or any other outside source to help them cope. They're never going to find that until they fix that attitude, until they take a different perspective on life. Give me some feedback on this, and let me know what's your attitude and your perspective. Are you that person, like I said earlier, that wakes up and waits to see how the day progresses before they decide if they're happy or not? Or are you that person that decides to be happy, and when they wake up, they're grateful that they woke up and they have another day and another chance with their loved ones and another chance to go after their dreams and another chance to experience wonderful things in life? Which one are you? Okay? And I will tell you this, that you can change those if you want to. I'm going to leave you today with one saying from Tony Robbins that is probably one of the most powerful sayings that you're going to hear. But before I get to that, I'm going to tell you, that's exactly right, Mo. But before we get to that, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Have you ever heard the saying, you cannot change what's going on around you until you change what's going on within you? Okay? Nothing around you will be better. Nothing will change for the better until you change. And as soon as you change, everything around you will change and get better. It's just the way it is. Remember my saying, my Charlie Brown saying that everybody joked with me about? If you become a better person, you'll have a better life? Okay. Let me read this. I wake up and hope nothing screws up my day. I'm tentative. Well, you know what, Lisa? You really, really, really need to do that exercise. So I'm going to repeat the exercise just in case you didn't catch the beginning of this podcast. If you're someone who struggles with that, like Lisa just mentioned, before you go to bed at night, write down 2 things. I have a journal that I use. Write down 2 things that you're grateful for that happened that day. It could be something as small as, I hit every green light on the way home and they had my favorite drink at the restaurant. Okay, it could be something big. It could be that I got to spend time with my grandsons, or even if I just stopped and got some hugs from them. I don't care what it is. 2 positive things that you're grateful for that happened that day, and 2 things that you're looking forward to happening the next day. Try that, Lisa, and I bet you it helps a little bit with that attitude. And I understand that sometimes we have some bad situations in our life that really get us down. Like I said, there's no way to never, ever be down. No way to ever not question things a little bit. We're going to have those situations. But overall, it's really going to help you with that perspective and that attitude. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to close with this saying. And I want you to take this one to heart like I always say. I'll remind you once again, please share my Bobcast if you like them, if you find them helpful. But here's what Tony Robbins says. The greatest discovery of all time is that you can change your future simply by changing your attitude. I'll repeat that one more time. It's worth repeating. Tony Robbins says you can change your future simply by changing your attitude. And it's absolutely true. You ever hear the saying, a bad attitude is like a flat tire, you can't go anywhere until you change it? Absolutely true. Work on that perspective, work on that attitude, and I promise you, if you can improve them, maybe use that little exercise I gave you, you're going to find that your life improves and improves and improves until pretty soon you're like me when somebody says, how are you today? And I'm said, man, I'm happy when I woke up. I'm glad to wake up. I got another chance at another day. So keep that in mind. You can change your future simply by changing your attitude. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see everyone on the next Bobcast. Have a great Monday night and a great week, and let's go Pens.